Morning, David.
It's actually Andrea here this morning, but
okay.
Good morning. I guess it didn't rename me. I tried.
Good morning, Andrea. How are you?
I'm doing okay this morning. How are you?
Good. Will this all be on video then?
Yes, everything will be on video. I've got us live streaming to YouTube.
Okay. Will I be on video?
I'm sorry, I think we had a bit of playback there from being live streamed on YouTube. So I cut that out, but we're still live streaming and we're going to be recording.
Okay. Let me know when we're ready. Okay, so we are ready to go. So good morning. Mark Scheibmeyer, the relatively new city hearing examiner for Lakewood. I've been asked to convene a public hearing today in reference to an application for a conditional use permit submitted by Partners Architectural Design Group, Inc. on behalf of 100th Street Southwest Lakewood Property, LLC, with respect to property located at 4034 to 4048 100th Street Southwest in the city. The applicant requests a conditional use permit to allow the production, drying, and servicing of live edge slabs, a term I had not come up with before and now understand what it is. I always wondered what those were called. And so in advance of today's hearing, I have received a staff report authorized by Andrea Bell, who is present today, together with various exhibits, totaling exhibits A through J, including the staff report. I have reviewed all of them in advance of today's hearing. And by the way, I was going to identify a conditional use permit 3747 is the official hearing number for this hearing. Again, I have reviewed all of those reports in advance of today's hearing, and I'm familiar with the application. So this is the first conditional use hearing I have been asked to conduct for the city of Lakewood, and so we may need to confirm how we'll go about it, whether the city has any specific requests or procedures, or whether I'm just turned loose to do it in my standard way. So typically, Ms. Bell, what I would do is hear from the city staff in further response to the staff report and its findings and recommendations, provide an opportunity for the applicant to respond, and then turn the matter over to the public. Is that standard with you as well?
Yeah, that's typically how we do it. And then if there's any comment from the public, which we haven't had thus far, after that, if there's any questions or anything of that nature that the city needs to respond to, or the applicant needs to respond to, then they're more than welcome to do so. And it looks like we do have a hand raised here. I believe it's Dan Durr, and I think he's from the general public.
Okay, so in that case, since we do have members of the public present, just a brief reminder, there do not appear to be many members of the public interested in this application or seeking to testify. And since there are relatively few, I'm not going to impose any time constraints on the length of public testimony. And the only other thing to note is that if you wish to testify, you will first be sworn and then provided the opportunity to speak as you wish. A reminder that what I'm interested in as the hearing examiner is not so much opinions, that is whether you like or dislike the project, but the reasons why you may support it or oppose it. So if you wish to testify either in favor or against the project, it will do me a great service if you're as detailed in your reasoning as you can be. It's the reasoning that I'm most interested in, not so much whether you're in support or in opposition. So again, we'll come to that at the conclusion of the first two portions of the hearing, which are the presentations by the city and then by the applicant. And Ms. Bell, on behalf of the applicant, who should I anticipate as the representative?
So I believe Eric Coach here is the technically the applicant on behalf of Lakewood Live Edge or the Glass
Okay.
Debtors.
And I have Mr. Koch on my screen. So we'll get underway.
Am
We'll
I coming
begin.
through?
Good morning.
Yes, we can
Okay,
hear
good
you.
morning.
A reminder that all parties are to testify under oath, including staff. And so Ms. Bell will first have you sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Take that as a yes. And so go ahead.
Just a short one this morning. And this is for application for conditional use permit number 3747, which is the Lakewood Live Edge. My name's Andrea Bell. I've been the project planner for this proposed change of use to an existing building, which will be utilized for Lakewood Live Edge. Partners Architectural Design Group, on behalf of 100th Street Southwest Lakewood Property LLC, is proposing a new tenant improvement and change of use to an existing building located at 4034 to 4048 100th Street Southwest in Lakewood. That parcel number is 02190111113, which is located in the Commercial 2, abbreviated as C2 zoning district. The project scope includes interior improvements, including dust collection systems, relocated ADA bathrooms, and installation of kiln equipment and kiln cooling tower for the purpose of production, drying, and servicing of these live edge slabs. The Lakewood Municipal Code, also abbreviated as LMC, and city staff would designate the proposed use as manufacturing, assembly, and packaging, medium intensity, which is allowed upon approval of a conditional use permit in the C2 zone. Exterior site improvements are limited and include landscaping, screening, and frontage improvements along 100th Street Southwest. Based on staff review and analysis of this proposal, as well as existing conditions on site, the city does recommend approval of the Lakewood Live Edge conditional use permit, as well as the conditions of approval detailed in the provided staff report.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of questions.
Of course.
I note in the staff report that the applicant has identified hours of operation as 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The city has not requested any condition as to the hours of operation. Does the city feel it is important to establish hours or restrictions on hours, or does it feel that is necessary given the nature of the zone and its location and other aspects? In other words, has the hours of operation been purposely excluded as a condition of approval?
Yeah, so the city takes into account a variety of different business and then the general operating hours that we have within our municipal code, especially if they are unique uses or uses that are, particularly intense or have some type of adverse impact such as noise, dust, vibrations, or something of the like. In this case, there was no condition of approval for the proposed operating hours because of how the site currently operates. We have not had, to my knowledge, at least per speaking with code enforcement, any complaints or anything of that nature with regard to how the current site operates, which there are three existing buildings on site. I believe they utilize 1 to 2 of those, and there are other site operations that are primarily outdoors. So with this specifically being an indoor business that I don't believe is open to the public, the city didn't feel the need to condition the operating hours beyond that 8 to 5.
Okay, and that's what I took from the report, but I wanted to confirm. This application is somewhat unique or unusual in that, again, it's located within an existing structure doing somewhat similar work with no exterior evidence of a change in use. But the one thing about it would appear to be that it is more industrial in nature, more equipment running, therefore the potential for more noise. Any concerns about the noise potential for the project or its impact on the surrounding neighborhood?
There was, I think, originally some concern about how the site would operate in terms of it being a tree service with equipment logs on site, trucks coming and going, and things of that nature. This site was approved to operate this way a few years ago, and I do believe at that time there may have been a few items regarding that were addressed. I apologize at this exact moment, I don't know, but I could get that information to you. One of the reasons the city is allowing this to move forward and grant approval or request approval for the conditional use permit is because a lot of the surrounding uses are somewhat industrial in nature. Directly to the west, you've got South Sound train tracks, as well as an auto body business. Across the street to the northwest, you have Lakewood Industrial Park. Across the street of 100th to the northish, you also have South Sound Railway, as well as additional auto body type businesses. To the north and northeast, you've got some commercial retail that exists there that's smaller in nature, a couple additional auto body businesses. So our main concern was to the south and the southeast, where there is some existing single family development, as well as I believe there's a school behind to the south, which is zoned public institutional. So most of the site operations that are outside are operating in the north portion of the site closest to 100th Street Southwest. Everything else is operating out of large warehouses, which are along the east, south, and west property lines. And based on them being the tenant improvements they're required to do inside of that building for this particular use, as well as some of the different screening requirements, landscaping, and things of that nature, the city felt comfortable that there wouldn't be adverse impacts with regard to the surrounding, I guess, sensitive uses in nature to the east and the south.
Okay, a very thorough and helpful answer. I assume that this revised operation will involve large circular saws, band saws, planers, things that tend to be noisy, but at the same time, they're all internalized. They're all in the building. And so as I was looking at this, my thoughts are consistent with the cities in that, yes, both in considering the surrounding industrial uses and the fact that the noisemakers, if you will, for this project are ones located within a building. I did not see a noise issue or problem, but wanted to make certain that it was well addressed. I don't know that I have. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Yeah, and there are already some existing outdoor site operations that might utilize that type of equipment. I'm definitely not the expert when it comes to the exact operations of Ranger Tree Experts, although I do have a good understanding. But I would definitely recommend that if you have any questions about specific equipment or where exactly it's operating from, other than the kilns and the cooling equipment and things of that nature that I know will be inside this building, that we definitely defer to either the property owner who operates the site or the applicant on that.
Okay. And then finally, as to lighting, I didn't sense any noticeable changes in proposed lighting for the site for this application. Am I correct in that understanding?
Correct. There's no on-site changes to lighting that are proposed as a part of this. Part of the approval from Public Works Engineering is that they will have to do frontage improvements, which usually can include curb gutter sidewalk and a landscaping strip. Sometimes, depending on the extent of those frontage improvements, there may be some lighting that's required in the right of way. But at this point in time, the site development permit for that has not been applied for, and I don't believe Public Works Engineering has necessarily applied a standard for that yet. So nothing on site, but potentially in the right of way in the future for the frontage improvements.
Oh, okay. And then one last observation, which is noted in your report, is that the indirect benefit of this project is that you do get improved site aesthetics. Is that a fair takeaway?
Yes, correct. That entire frontage over there is not improved. There is some improvements across the street on the north side of 100th where the industrial park is. But this would be a really great opportunity to begin improvements along that south side of 100th Street where it doesn't currently exist.
Okay, thank you. Those are the only questions I have from having read the report, which is well done and thorough, job well done. So we'll turn then to the applicant and to Mr. Koch. Mr. Koch, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. And first, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
This is your opportunity to add to or subtract from the city's position, or to provide any other information you think is valuable, taking into consideration any issues that the public may have, as well as the questions that I've posed to Ms. Bell. With all that in mind, what would you like to say?
I believe that staff has done an excellent job, a good overview of what the business entails and what we are adding to the site. So I don't believe there's any gaping holes of information that I could immediately apply. We have the operator and owner, Micah, on this call as well. And so perhaps if he has any words to add, that would be great to have his input. But I think that the staff report, I went through that just recently and looked extremely thorough. And so I don't have anything obvious to add at this point.
The only thing, Mr. Koch, if you could, and maybe your client would be the better choice, I'll let you decide. Could you run me through the operation? A log gets delivered on site, and then once delivered, what happens?
Well, I think that Mike would be great to respond to that. He's the operator and he has years of experience and will be able to exactly and accurate describe what that work is. Okay,
and who again is that?
Micah, and last name Glastetter. I may or may not have that completely pronounced correctly. I think he's got his hand raised. Is he able to give testimony?
Okay, let's find out. Ms. Bell, can you unmute him?
Sorry, he's unmuted at this point. He's able to talk.
He's not showing on my screen. So
okay.
I couldn't find the tab for opening the video. Is that an option for me?
You know, I'm not sure. I thought I had it open for everybody to be able to add video.
Yeah, I'm not able to either.
I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what happened, but Micah, if you do have the permission to talk, please feel free to go ahead.
So Micah, your first name is spelled how?
M-I-C-A-H.
Okay, and your last name?
G-L-A-S-T-E-T-T-E-R.
Okay, thank you. And so first, have you sworn? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And you are the owner of the property or owner of the business, or both?
Both. There's 4 owners and I am one of them.
Okay. So you heard the question I posed to Mr. Koch as to what happens on site with the log. Perhaps you can provide that explanation.
So what we have done already is break the log down with bandsaws. So if we're making something like lumber or paneling, we have a smaller saw called the LT70. Woodmiser makes this saw. It has about the noise level of a riding lawnmower. And then our other larger saw for slabbing up to 6-foot diameter logs is electric, 50-horse electric motor. So that one is all but silent. And then the LT70, I actually went into the Southgate neighborhood to the houses closest adjacent to our property up on Montrose Street. And I listened as that LT70 was operating, and you can barely hear the motor, and you can hear a little bit of the chirping of the belt and the clutches engaged. And I actually knocked on 3 doors and I asked the neighbors if they had noticed. And this was a couple of years ago. It was during COVID. And they said there was nothing that we were doing at that point that bothered them or disturbed them. And I wholeheartedly agree, 8 to 5 is where we're going to restrict our activities, especially anything outdoors.
Okay,
But once that log is broken down, we have a propane powered forklift that moves the material around. It will, in ideal circumstances, you cut it, it's still sopping wet green boards. You put it in the kiln. The kiln is also silent, it's run with a boiler and a vacuum pump and circulates water through these platens that you alternately stack between the wood. And the only byproduct of a vacuum kiln is dripping water. It doesn't, it's a closed system. The only water that comes out of it is the water that was inside the wood to begin with. And again, that's all silent. But once that happens, the rest of our woodworking endeavors are in the building. So there would be a molder if you wanted to make paneling. There's a wide belt sander if you wanted to surface a slab, and a planer, all 440 or 480 electric motors.
so if I tracked correctly, the sawing, primary sawing takes place outdoors into slabs of one kind or another, and with all finish work being both drying, sanding, planing taking place indoors. Did I understand correctly?
Yes.
Okay, and it's those two saws, the bandsaw and the electric saw, that are outside, but again, your experience is that they're harder to hear or not hearable at all. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, decibel wise, the train that rolls by every hour to 20 minutes is much louder.
Okay, all right. You've heard Ms. Bell's testimony and you've reviewed her report. Is there anything you would like to add in addition to what Mr. Koch has testified to?
Only that I've really been anxious to get permission to get started and landscape the place and make everything look nice and organize the yard. I've kind of got a backlog of material that the property isn't to my liking at this point. So as soon as we can get going, it will be a much prettier place to drive by.
Okay, all right, thank you. And does that complete the presentation by the applicant then? Can Mr. Koch be unmuted to confirm that?
Yes, thank you.
There we go.
I just wanted to add that we have actually submitted for a site development permit early on, number 2146, or wait, 2127. I get these numbers mixed up. So I believe that is in process to date. We can certainly check after the hearing. It was put on hold waiting for the results.
Right.
So.
It was noted in the staff report as pending, and it cannot proceed without the conditional use permit. So, right.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
So having heard from city staff, having heard from the applicant, this now becomes the opportunity for members of the public to provide testimony. And so Ms. Bell had indicated at least one member of the public wishing or present and perhaps wishing to be heard. And so Ms. Bell, could you give me a sense of where we are with respect to public testimony?
Got to remember to unmute. Yes, of course. It looks like we have one member of the public. It's Mr. Dan Durr. It looks like he's unmuted. Mr. Durr, would you like to speak today?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Durr, good morning. Your audio was a little bit uncertain when you responded, so I'll let you know if we're having any audio problems, but first want to have you sworn. So do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, I can hear you better now. And your last name is Durr?
Right. Yes, it is.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate this opportunity, and thank you to the professional on the screen and the audio. Really appreciate the overview. It's great. First of all, full disclosure, our firm, First Western Properties, represented the partnership that purchased the subject property several years ago. And so I wanted to be on record that we disclosed the fact that we were involved in the transaction from an economic perspective. We did benefit from it. We are not partners in the property. However, my comments today are twofold. One, as a resident of Lakewood for the last 30 years, and then secondarily as a business person in Lakewood. So first of all, as a resident, we were delighted that Lakewood Live Edge and Ranger Tree Experts chose to stay in the Lakewood area with their business. I know that they evaluated opportunities for purchase and relocation in the city of Tacoma, and that would have been a sad day to see such a unique and exciting business leave Lakewood. So from kind of a resident of love,
Mr. Durr, I've lost you briefly. You started to fade out and then faded altogether toward the end of your comments.
Okay. Where did it leave off?
After you expressed delight that the applicant chose to remain within the city as you feel it was an important asset to the city, and we're thankful that it chose not to leave the city. And then I don't know what you said after that.
Like he may have fallen off. I'm allowing him to talk again, so he should be coming back.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Very well now, yes.
Oh, good. Well, I went outside, so these are always interesting. So where did I leave off? I'm sorry, I won't bore you with what I've.
Thank you. You expressed delight, you used in your terms, delight at the applicant choosing to stay within the city and not relocate elsewhere.
Great. Okay. Secondary to that, very excited that a business such as Lakewood Live Edge would, and Ranger Tree Experts would benefit our community both economically from a tax-based perspective, but also from a presence perspective, that they do something very, very unique. And it would be our hope that at some point in time, because I believe the zoning approves it, maybe they'd even put together some sort of retail presence, because the products and all that they offer are very exciting. There's a tremendous amount of interest, not only what they do and how they do it, but the products they generate. So from the standpoint of our resident, those are some of the thoughts that I have. From a business perspective, there are locations that satisfy a business's needs and locations that don't. And this is just absolutely, from a business standpoint, a perfect fit for what they wanted to do. Existing buildings, existing yard, accessibility, visible presence in the community. And so for the standpoint of keeping them in Lakewood, this was one of the few properties that would actually meet their needs and at the same time be approved for what they're doing with the city of Lakewood. So I'm obviously in favor of this. I'm delighted with the professionals and the work they've done and the analysis that they've done, and appears to be common sense approval to the proposal.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Durr. Ms. Bell, do you see anyone else wishing to testify?
Yes, we have one other individual with their hand raised, and the name on the screen is Matt.
Matt, okay. So has Matt been unmuted?
Yes, they're unmuted.
Hello.
Good morning. And Matt, I do not see anything about you on my screen. So could you tell me what your name is?
Sure. My name is Matthew Couch. That's MATTHEWCOUCH.
Okay. And Mr. Couch, will have you sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do so swear.
Go ahead.
So I'm a resident of Lakewood, as well as an employee of Lakewood Live Edge. I am so very thrilled that Lakewood Live Edge has the opportunity to open and do business in Lakewood. As a resident, the places where as a woodworker I can go and pick up live edge slabs is fairly limited in the area. My wife and I have actually taken trips all the way up to Port Townsend to a business up there in order to procure lumber of the quality and with the live edge nature that we were looking for. And so we were so very thrilled to learn that Lakewood Live Edge was opening up in Lakewood. In addition to that, these live edge slabs have the ability to enhance our community by being deployed and utilized in local businesses and homes. And in addition to that aesthetic and that practical value, it will also provide economic benefits to our community. We'll have opportunities to support other businesses like furniture makers, countertops, all sorts of live edge things like that. So really, really excited for this and strongly support this conditional use permit approval.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Couch. And Ms. Bell, anyone else showing an interest in testifying?
I don't believe so. We do have.
Again, you're not unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. It looks like we do have one other individual on the call, but they do not have their hand raised. So I don't believe we have anybody else for any public testimony.
Okay. If you show no other evidence of those wishing to testify, we'll conclude the public hearing phase. Normally, I allow both the city and the applicant an opportunity to respond to public comment, but in this case, public comment was favorable to the project. Therefore, there wasn't anything requiring a response from either. So I'm not asking for any further response from either the city or the applicant. And I'll conclude that the testimony is complete. I have no problem granting this conditional use permit. It's straightforward. It's there's no opposition and there's no reason to be opposed to it. Everything is favorable to it, and everything is consistent with city land use regulations and the city's comprehensive planning. Can't find a single thing about it that's in conflict with anything the city would like to do on this site or in its zoning designation. And so there's absolutely no basis upon which to deny the request. I'm going to go ahead and prepare that decision as soon as I can. For the benefit of Mr. Koch and the applicant, please understand that that means taking this information and converting it to findings, conclusions of law, and a decision. That's a handcrafted document that takes a little bit of time to prepare. So it'll be a few days for me to do that. But I do understand that the building permit is pending this determination, and that therefore any delay I cause is delaying that permit. I do not wish to cause that delay, and therefore I will work on this as rapidly as I can. In fact, I've carved out time on the near term to try to get that out ASAP. And then once out, again, you have your building permit will be processed. Ms. Bell, this being my first decision with a community or conditional use permit for the city, I've seen some of Mr. Obrecht's prior ones. Is there a strong preference toward his formatting? Does the city care if I utilize a format I use in my other cities? Does it have any specific preferences?
I don't believe that we have any specific preference, and we're more than happy to take this opportunity to see what type of document you come up with. We're more than happy.
Good. I did notice in Mr. Obrecht's conditional use decisions that he contains some final notices. One, the right to appeal, and then there's also a valuation notice, which is I haven't seen before. Is that valuation notice important, or is it deemed necessary to be included?
I don't think that the valuation notice is necessary to be included. I think that it's always good to have the appeal language in there if possible.
Sure. I understand that. The added notice was affected property owners may request a change in valuation for property tax purposes, notwithstanding any program of revaluation. And I've never seen that language before, and I didn't know what its purpose was. I'm not going to include it unless I am told otherwise. So
I think that was an individual choice. It's not something that the city requested or required him to do, to my knowledge.
good to know. Thank you. And so that's everything from my end. Again, I will render this decision in writing as quickly as I can, make it available to the parties with no changes to the recommended conditions. And again, have that as soon as possible. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.